If you'll go over a page, there's an information box. And I posed the question, I answered part of it, the Great Depression. The other is obviously the New Deal and President Roosevelt. I believe that, very frankly, there is a mistaken impression about the Great Depression and Roosevelt's role in unions. Roosevelt is given a lot of credit for being a great sponsor of the National Labor Relations Act, which in effect gave workers rights to bargain other than in railroads. That is true. The motivations have never been written up in history. The motivations were, I was pro-union. No, he wasn't. And so, obviously, if you look at how historians have recorded it, it was the fact that he wanted his New Deal to work, and his New Deal would not work if we had massive strikes of people who were angry. And the only way to put an end to that was to give a framework in which workers could bargain collectively, putting in mediation services, arbitrations, all of these things, so we could systematically channel the energies. And that was its purpose. I want to talk about political alternatives. So I think that gives you maybe a little picture of what went on. He played an enormous role, but the role has to be defined honestly, and if we do, then I think we can assess it in a historical sense. This is something that has grieved me greatly about American management as an institution. During the time period of the Great Depression, the passage of laws, the tumultuous war years, because even though there was a law, we couldn't bargain freely during the Second World War because we didn't want to interrupt the war efforts, and we went to the War Labor Board, which was mandatory arbitration for all negotiations. We had two alternatives at that time. People don't understand that historically America came very close to choosing another form of government, another economic system. There were other economic systems in play. And one was called controlling the means of production. That's generally associated with something called communism, something called socialism, something called isms of some sort. And we had track two, collective bargaining. Which track did we, as conscientious Americans, select? People forget that the trade union movement in America selected collective bargaining. And American management probably never knew that, or if they did, they have forgotten it. And I try to remind them all the time. I've kind of put it in the film, so I guess my buddy back there will have to figure out how, if it comes or goes on that thing. But my reminder is that you as a movement chose to bargain collectively, which means you have accepted capital ownership. We all own. There are people that own. And we're not interested in owning it. We're interested in having a fair shake from those people that employ us, called owners. And if you look at the information box, there's some pieces here. There's something called business unionism, and that's what this is. Business unionism is the acceptance by United States trade unions of basic capitalism versus control of the means of production. We did do that. And as I said, unions will bargain its share of the profits and management will manage the business. But the third bullet point is the most important one of all. The United States business sector has never as an institution accepted the continuous existence of the American trade union movement. Every day, systematically, politically, at the table and whatever, somebody tries to do the movement in as a policy. And I often have said to, and as a mediator and after 30-some years, I could get away with it, I often said to people, why do you do this? I said, if you had to select a union on your own, I'm talking to management now, I said, you'd have selected the exact one you have now. They're American, they believe in free enterprise, they believe in private ownership, they just want their share. The hell's wrong with that? Isn't that what you wanted? But that's the unanswered question, that the American trade union movement accepted the existence of ownership and capital has never accepted your existence of that existence. That is a travesty. Kind of rounding this up, I want to put the next peg in the hole, and that is that leadership changed dramatically because of the economy. It used to be the skill of my hands. It now is political. And so when unions get criticized for being political, I'm saying, people, wake up. There was a reason for this. There's a reason for you to still be political. there is a reason for you to protect your interests. Now, do sometimes you protect them overtly? Yeah, so we all do. Big deal. That's life. If I don't like you, I'll throw you out of office. And that's life. That's life. So quit blaming each other. Understand the reasons we have institutions in history. Well, we have to put another peg in the hole, and that is, let's look at the evolution. How work is organized. It went from craft to production to simply replaceable. Simply replaceable in a production process. How am I paid? I went from wage levels to wages to piecework wages. Speed, fast, replaceable. You don't have to use your mind. You have to use your coordination. Organization structure. We went from flat to hierarchy to super hierarchy. Read the books of the great foundations, the great founders of GM. That huge mammoth thing called GM. Well, it ain't mammoth anymore. And if you don't believe that Ford isn't anymore, walk around this complex and look at who isn't here anymore. They're here. They're a skinny down version. They're a version trying to fight in a world market now with their union. That's the way it has to be. Are there employment and labor laws? There sure is. Why? It was the only way I could protect myself. I now needed friendly politicians, friendly courts, friendly laws. Why? Because I had a contract, which was a legally enforceable document, and I needed somebody to enforce it. Was there social legislation? Yes. What was there? Social Security, unemployment comp, workers' comp, Federal or Fair Labor Standards Act, Americans with Disability, OSHA, MyOSHA, the FMLA, Civil Rights Act, etc., etc. Hundreds of laws were passed in this time period. It almost used to be, if I can't negotiate it, I'll legislate it. I think to some degree unions made a mistake here. You have to understand what unions gave Americans, the non-union, which are the majority of the Americans. They gave you and us a right to be free and to, in effect, be free from these oppressions. And they never got credit for it. If I was selfish, I'd have said the union movement, screw them. If they want it, unionize, join us, put it in a contract. But the union movement was not selfish in America. It helped pass every one of these laws to make a better America for us. Now, obviously we have people that fight them, we have people that cheat them, there's all kinds of things that happen in that, but that was what its purpose was. Do we discriminate? Yes. See new laws. We keep adding and adding and adding and adding. Because now discrimination is defined broadly in a variety of different areas because we're in a different arena. And as we move into the data industry, there are further discriminations that you can't even imagine. What happens when I get a hold of your DNA? We never conceived of that in the 1700s. Are we violent? Yes, we are very violent in this time period. This is the period of heightened violence. Why? Because the employer opposition became a reality, and the reality said, we fight. Why we can't trust? We went from question mark to revenge. I don't think I can trust you. Why? Because the law created us as adversaries. The National Labor Relations Act clearly says we must sit as adversaries. Now, it doesn't mean I don't like you or I don't have to like you, but we turned it into a damn good fight for about 40 years.
Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step, the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. drops of water turn a mill. Singly none, singly none, step by step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Step by step the longest march can be won, can be won. Many stones can form an arch, singly none, singly none. And in union what we will can be accomplished still. Drops of water turn a mill, singly none, singly none, singly none, singly none, singly none, singly none, singly none.